Hello there.
Are we live?
We're live, pal.
All right. There we
I
go.
want to give a big shout out and welcome to Dub Style. Says he's new to the show, new to the channel. Says he stumbled upon this with The Last Jedi reviews and he digs the Trek content.
Very cool.
Very cool. I wish your first live stream was going to be on, some Star Trek we could celebrate. Instead of this gem of the flick, which I would argue is solely responsible for killing the TNG franchise. At least
franchise was already dead.
Yeah.
This
was the final nail in it.
I wouldn't even say that. I think this movie was irrelevant. I mean, if you look at the box office for this movie, it was completely irrelevant.
And Thomas Potts, I hate, if you go to supportsalty.com and check out our live stream watch along we did, I hate the opening credits. I hate the fonts, the design choices.
Because notice the EME are all the same letter, just rotated.
Yeah, it has a very Star Warsy kind of feel. I don't like this movie at all for multiple reasons. It's not very Star Trek at all, and a big load of that goes on to the writer.
Yet he likes First Contact when it's just as not Star Trek as this.
I mean, look, let's not argue about that movie. Let's just talk about this movie.
Well, it's hard to, because this movie is actually of the Next Generation films. As strictly as a film standing on its own, this is probably the strongest one of the Next Gen. However...
I disagree with that. It was definitely First Contact is a better movie.
No, you see, First Contact, the climax of the movie is in the first 15 minutes. That is very poor script writing. This movie at least has a story that builds. The Battle of the Bason Rift is not bad. But, the whole Shinzon story was, I mean, basically, if you look at...
I literally fell asleep twice watching this movie with you.
So?
It's not a good movie.
That's not the first time you've fallen asleep when we've been doing watch-alongs.
I'm pretty sure it was the first time I did sober, though. Pretty sure.
Yeah, but you haven't been sober that long, so that's not saying much.
Hey, 44 days as of today. Right?
Yeah, but and congratulations on 44 days. But, talk to me when it's been a year. If this is still the only movie you've fallen asleep on, then maybe you'll have something to stand on.
Is this better, Mike Richards? They said I was too quiet.
Yeah, you were pretty quiet. Now you're very, very loud.
Oh, my bad. Well, turn it down a little.
You like to go from one extreme to another, which... that's just you.
Yeah.
So, Alex, thank you for asking. My trip was good. For those of you that don't know, Sunday after the church live stream, immediately hopped in the car. And worst thing about this film is retconning Romulans. I'm not sure what you mean. How are the Romulans retconned exactly? I mean, I need something more specific. Honestly, the Romulans were almost irrelevant in this film. I would say retconning the Remans was pretty bad. But not to mention retconning Picard again. Which this is
Look, no. Just explain to everyone what you explained to me at the beginning of our watch along, so you don't have to worry about retcons or anything making sense.
Well, yeah, you have to remember that the last three films that we've watched, First Contact, Insurrection, and Nemesis, are all just Picard in the Nexus. This is just Picard's fantasy, which is why he's an action hero and why, it's all dependent on Picard's blood and crap like that. So this is just another chapter of Picard's fantasy. There's nothing about remans on the past as far as I remember. There's actually only, as far as I know, there's only one direct mention of, it's not even the remans, but in Balance of Terror, the episode of Trek that introduced us to the Romulans, we hear Kirk say in his opening captain's log that the Romulan Empire consisted of the planets Romulus and Remus. And of course, they talk about the Romulans, so it would stand to reason that there are Remans. And thank you for the new subscriptions, guys. But yeah, the one thing to remember is that and this is, I mean, the biggest retcon of the Romulans was actually TNG, the series, where they made the Romulan Empire a significant power in the Alpha Quadrant. Because in the original series, the entirety of the Romulan Empire was 2 planets. It was basically one solar system. But then that changed. And
Super chat.
Black Knight Leader, I have not talked to you in forever. Good to see you. Says, I only like the Remans, but as stated before, they made the scimitar to just one up the final battle in Star Trek 6. Well, I don't like the scimitar at all. And during our watch along, I went off about the scimitar.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that there's absolutely no way in HE double hockey sticks that this ship could have been made. Because, I mean, and Shinzon, the entire explanation is, we constructed a secret base to build the scimitar. And it's like, wait, you built a secret naval base capable of building a starship that is now the biggest, baddest ship ever in Trek, and the Romulans had no idea. That makes no effing sense whatsoever. So, but thank you, Black Knight Leader. And like I said, I have not talked to you in forever and a day, so good to see you. So Thomas says, 1, the Romulan Empire could have expanded. 2, there were a lot more stars in the map than just 1. And wrong on both. Well, okay. On the first one, sure, the Romulan Empire could have expanded. However, it also seems to, I mean, like the size of the neutral zone changed. Now the neutral zone has whole star systems in it in TNG times. And as far, but I so get tired of the argument that, there were more stars in the map than just 1. Those were like, stars in the background. Those were not stars within the Romulan border, which you can figure out just by looking at travel times on the map. If those were all stars, nothing could live in that sector. Nothing. Because there'd be way too many stars. And what's, okay, that's new.
That's cool though, right? I dig it.
Yeah, but now what we need is like a scoreboard up there for, when we're talking about movies.
Yeah, maybe we can add that. We'll get on that.
So I have the Romulan Empire, and Thomas is laughing at travel times in TOS. Just because, first of all, you could LOL about travel times in any of the shows. All right. Any of the shows. They say things that are woefully inaccurate as far as travel times, right? So don't just act like TOS is the only guilty party here, Thomas. But when you're showing a map and they show, here's the position of the Enterprise, here's where we're going, it's going to take us 8 minutes at maximum warp, you can calculate the distance there. And
ready, fight. See, I can add that and take it away. Dun 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 dun. Ah,
Yeah, but you know what would be better is if that was a PNG, so it didn't block out everything.
It is a PNG. I took that off.
Why'd you take it off?
I don't know.
And now you put it on top of this.
Oops.
So now I can't see the super chat.
The super chat. Oh, you got a super chat.
Yeah, but I can't see it.
There you go.
There. The bigger problem is the spirit of the Romulans. They're a metaphor for the Chinese, and the Chinese could never have a coup like that. The Romulans were not a metaphor for the Chinese. You know, sorry, they were not. Just because they had dark hair, they had dark hair because they were an offshoot of Vulcans, not because they're supposed to be Chinese.
Another super chat.
And Black Knight Leader says, don't forget Lancer 737. It's me. Oh, okay. Also, the answers about Nemesis will be answered in Aliens Romulus. Can't wait for the Riemann morphs. Yes. It's so funny because, when they announced the name of the new Alien movie called Aliens Romulus, all I could think of is, oh, okay, so now Alien takes place in the Star Trek universe, which actually kind of makes sense when we see the lower decks of the Enterprise E in this movie, because it looks a lot like a set from an Alien movie, which I actually commented on when we were watching it.
Yeah.
So this movie is riddled with problems as far as being a Star Trek film. That being said, I still maintain that of the Star Trek Next Generation films, it is, as a standalone movie, the best of the bunch.
I mean, I can respectfully disagree with you there. And on my side of the world, Hannibal Grimm, thank you for saying hi, stopping by. Extreme Shaft, welcome to the chat.
By the way, I had that bigger than the screen for a reason, just so you know.
Well, then make it bigger than the screen. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to resize it. It just happened.
Yeah, but now I have to see. You stop changing things during the show, please. That would be helpful.
Fight. Sorry.
You're not helping.
Sorry.
All right. Shoot. Now I gotta find.
Oh wow! You can like super chats now. Did you know that? You can give them a thumbs up. I just did that.
Oh no, I did not know that. That's cool. So be sure to like everybody's super chats, I guess.
I don't know what that's for, but thanks for the super chat regardless.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a new thing. So I have that so that I can easily get to the player controls. But
Gotcha.
Plus, if it's cut off a little bit, it helps throw off the copyright bots a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. Are you messing with it? Because every time
not touching anything. I'm looking through comments right now, seeing if I missed anything.
All right, it's like hard to. Every time I try to grab it, it like disappears on me. So just me. Okay, there we go. All right, so this movie. The reason I say it's the best of the movies is that this movie, unlike the prior 3 Star Trek films, is actually constructed like a movie and not like a couple of episodes.
Well, so the guy, John Logan, who wrote this screenplay, was coming right off of his fame and hype from the movie Gladiator.
Right.
And
Gladiator, I mean, like, he can write. And that's the thing, is that this movie has a story that makes sense. It has a build to a climax.
This movie was so bad, it literally ended the director's directing career. It's the last movie he ever directed.
Just because it wasn't particularly well directed doesn't change the fact that it's the most cinematic film of the Next Gen bunch. And that's kind of sad. Because, you realize Jonathan Frakes directed the last 2 movies. Jonathan Frakes should never be allowed to direct a movie. I
disagree.
I'm fine with him directed TV episodes. He's fine at that. But that is a totally different beast than directing film. And so, and I think it shows when you look at his works. Same with, I can't remember who it was that directed the first one. It wasn't Ronald D. Moore, was it?
No.
Trying to remember, but who directed Star Trek Generations?
I really miss Jason at times like
Yeah.
these. Let's see. You'd think it would be in my history. No, I gotta type out more of it. Let's see. Nope, that didn't.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the TV crew. I know that.
All right, director, somebody named David Carson. Not very familiar with it.
Okay, so maybe not. But it was written by Braga and
So let's see. This guy was a director of mostly TV shows. Yeah, like Smallville and One
and
Tree
that
Hill,
shows you don't you know I'm sorry. Look,
Witchblade, and
there are people there that can
Star Trek Deep Space Nine,
Right, okay.
Star Trek The Next Generation.
Okay, you don't have to read his entire bio.
Sorry.
So, but and thank you, Joe Biden with $1.
Super chat.
Says, I had some ice cream with a few Romulans, or was that the Emperor of Rome? Hail Karoka, number 22. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the Emperor of Rome, Mr. President, because I'm pretty sure you were alive back then. So I think that the reason that this film feels more like a film to me is because it was made by movie guys. And that was intentional. They were like, because after the failure of Insurrection, they were like, you know what? We actually really do need to make Star Trek movies, not two-part Star Trek episodes, and call it a movie.
Yeah, but this was not Star Trek, man.
No, it wasn't. But I'm not saying, and that's why I said, as a standalone film, it's the best. However, and this is the problem, and this is something that I said about First Contact as well, is that as a standalone film, First Contact is the best of the first three by far. But the problem is, it's not a standalone film. It's part of a franchise. And that's where you need someone like Nicholas Meyer, who was not, Nicholas Meyer didn't make two great Star Trek movies, actually three if you count, what was it, Star Trek 4. But he didn't make these great movies because he was a Star Trek fan. He wasn't. He'd never seen Star Trek until he directed Star Trek 2 and has an unwritten or uncredited writing. He rewrote Star Trek 2 as well. So it's because he understands what it means to be part of a franchise. And so what he did was he studied the franchise before he made the film.
Wow, I'm going down this rabbit hole of the crew of this movie,
it's
like
not worth
editors and no, it's terrible. It's the who's who of like this movie ended several careers. It looks like.
Well, and a bad movie the problem is that, again, it's not that it's a bad movie, but nobody went out to see it.
Like this guy, this guy went on to edit such great hits as WWE's The Marine, such as Death Race, such as The Marine 3. Like, good Lord. Yeah, this guy, it's just, like I said, the director never went on to direct another movie again.
Well, and it's because, again, the movie was such a financial failure. Keep in mind,
it was so bad.
This movie made a worldwide gross of $67 million on a $60 million budget.
Oh, God,
They lost their shirts on this film. Because remember, that worldwide gross, you do typically have to make 2 to 3 times your production budget to break even.
Yeah. So Thomas, hey, good for you, man. My mom and I, Mom, you're in the chat. It helped my memory. I was 22 I think we saw this together, you and I, in the theater. I remember very clearly we left feeling very deflated. Where we were like the only ones in there, right? Maybe two other people. Keep me honest in the chat, Mom. But when we went, it was opening weekend. It was like during the day.
Yeah, nobody went to see it.
It was. Yeah.
Nobody went to see this movie, but the problem there is that, and this is where I argue with people. It's the same effect as Solo, a Star Wars film, a Star Wars story from The Last Jedi. The reason for the failure of this movie was not because this movie was so freaking bad. It's because Insurrection was so freaking bad.
Then there was a 4-year gap. We talked about that before.
Right. But Insurrection left such a bad taste in people's mouth.
Yeah, and Stanley, no, not even close. Star Trek: The Motion Picture will always hold that title, I'm sure. Well, I mean, not until you get into the JJ movies, but you know.
Oh, as far as budget is concerned,
this was not the highest budgeted Star Trek film.
Actually, I think for dollar-wise, it may have been at that point $60 million. The budget for Star Trek: The Motion Picture was 40.
You adjust for inflation, Star Trek: The Motion Picture crushes all of them. Like, you have to adjust for inflation. You have to adjust for inflation.
40 million. Actually, Star Trek 2009 had even adjusted for inflation, I think, had the highest budget. And
you got a super chat.
Thank you so much, Alex. I said I quit watching Berman Trek after they turned Enterprise into an action show with the 9/11 Xindi arc. I felt betrayed as it violated the Prime Directive. Well, it didn't violate the Prime Directive so much. Well, let me ask you this, Alex.
So no.
Wait. Then you were okay with the Dominion War arc, but you weren't okay with the Xindi War. And I would argue the Dominion War was much more action-y than the Xindi War, because you didn't have, hundreds of starships clashing in the Xindi War arc. Like, the biggest battle had like a dozen ships. You
know what you did have in the Xindi War arc, which is why I would argue it's actually better, is if you follow the character arc of Jonathan Archer, the Xindi conflict is pivotal in his change. Like, he goes from a Boy Scout to like somebody who's willing to torture. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about that. Think about the type of change a man has to go through. Now, I did find a list, and the only movie with adjusted for inflation in the Star Trek franchise to spend more than the motion picture is Into Darkness. So I have a list.
Darkness.
Yeah, so Into Dark. Now, all of these are adjusted for inflation. $495.2 million was the budget for Darkness. Adjusted for inflation, $454.2 million for the motion picture. Star Trek, the first JJ one,
that's not
$436.9. Oh, I'm sorry. These are box office. Oh, I'm looking at. Okay, these are box office numbers.
Yeah, because the budget for the motion picture was only $35 million.
Where's the budget? Okay, let me get to the budget. Hold up. Okay, so budget versus I'll keep looking. I'm not as good as Jason at this.
That's okay. Well, just to plug into one of those inflation calculators, the budget was $35 million in 1979.
39 million in 1979.
35 million in 1979. Now, it actually ended up costing a little bit more, but
I thought it was like 60 million because they included the TV, and
it ended up being 40 million. That's what people, it's funny because you know how things can become kind of legendary, but it ended up going from 35 to 40. They went $5 million over budget.
$158.6 million when you adjust for inflation. 35 million.
So roughly $150 million, right?
158.6, so closer to 160.
Right.
Yeah.
So Star Trek 2009 had a budget of 150. So Star Trek 2009 had a budget roughly the same if you adjust, actually more than that, because what's 150 million?
Right now it's, I'm already ahead of you, 218.9 million.
Right. So Star Trek 2009 had a significantly bigger budget.
Yeah.
But Nemesis, Nemesis 2002, $60 million budget.
You're also talking about what 30, 40 years later. 30 years later, you're talking about
Yeah,
30
I
years
know.
later. Yeah.
But let's do Nemesis. So Nemesis 2002, $60 million budget.
In today's money, that is 104.2 million.
So it did have a lower budget than the motion picture.
Yeah.
But I do think arguably, I mean, granted, the motion picture, and the thing about motion pictures is that people forget that at that time in 1979, Star Trek: The Motion Picture was the best looking science fiction film ever made by a long shot.
And not to call Mr. Wong out, thank you for participating, but
Yeah.
that's one of the most commonly misspelled words in the English language. Did you know that?
What, surprisingly?
Yeah, there's an R in front of the P. Most
I
people-
I am not. First of all, don't listen to Danny.
It's true.
I don't
S-U-R.
give a crap if you spell things correctly. Just get your point across.
No, thank you. I was just pointing. That's one of the most commonly misspelled words. It's. I find that interesting. Anyway,
ABJ, I agree that the villain in Nemesis was not particularly compelling. As villains go, Shinson was relatively generic. Stanley asked 2001, if you're talking about visual effects, Star Trek: The Motion Picture looked better than 2001. Look at those shots of the frickin' Enterprise.
we got another super
And then compare that to
chat.
2001. Okay, so Alex says, Dominion War was World War II, so justified. Zindi and Iraq were a choice. No, look, the Zindi were planning to annihilate the population of Earth. Zindi was a self-defense war. Federation in America should have stuck to principles and minded their own business. No, the Zindi were literally building a doomsday weapon to completely annihilate.
Thomas, I don't know, but welcome. Give me a thumbs up while you're there. And I know I agree.
Or better yet, a thumbs down.
No. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Salty. I mean, good Lord, they tested their weapon on Florida. It wasn't. I mean, I don't know. I felt.
Yeah, I mean, I
respect.
understand.
Thank you for the super chat, but
Yeah,
I
look, I
respectfully
get
disagree.
that at the time it was a parallel to 9/11, sure, but that's not. But and you may not agree with America's policies during the Bush administration, but the Bush administration and the Federation are not the same thing. In Star Trek Enterprise, the Federation was attacked by the Zindi, and the Zindi had the intent of wiping out the Federation. Mm-hmm. That was the story.
And Earth. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, but they were literally going to annihilate every man, woman, and child on Earth.
Yeah.
And the Enterprise
they threatened to give it to the Aquatics because of how much water it had. I do remember that line.
But the only ship that Starfleet had that could possibly go on this mission was the Enterprise. So they had to send a lone ship to try and stop an entire race from attacking. That was a cool idea, honestly. And yes, it did make the show a little more action-oriented for that season. However, I do think that what they were doing, because the problem is, everybody complained that the first two seasons of Enterprise were boring. And you can agree or disagree with that, but back in those years, back in 2001, when Enterprise was airing, that was what people were saying. This show is boring. And so what did they do? They said, let's bring in, the Dominion War arc, saved Deep Space Nine, so let's do that again.
I'm telling you, man, what killed that show was it, that opening theme just sets the tone, and it just,
Oh, I think the opening theme was a horrible choice. They should have used Archer's theme.
I still can't get past it,
Yeah. No,
25 years
I
later,
agree with
whatever.
you there. I think the opening theme was absolutely a horrifically bad choice. But it's what we got. Unfortunately, it's still. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so bad. However, that being said, it's still the you can't say that the Federation didn't stick to their principles. It was purely self-defense, and it was absolutely justified. Yes, the writers were thinking to parallel 9/11, but you also have to stop and consider, what did people think 9/11 was then compared to in hindsight. So, like today, sure, people think about the fact that, okay, Iraq ended up not having weapons of mass destruction. And so now, and some people think, oh, George Bush lied, and other people think, oh, George Bush was mistaken. Doesn't matter what side of that you fall on. Everybody, the Democrats and the Republicans, were all united in going to war. Everybody thought that Iraq was the bad guy, and that turned out to be wrong.
All I know is I bet everybody that talks shit about George Bush back in the day would give their left nut to have him as president right now.
Yeah. However, when the Zindi War arc came out, everybody was still thinking that those weapons were there. And so you got to put it in historical context. Right. And you're simply not, by suggesting that the Federation somehow was wrong in attacking the Zindi, just because you could say in retrospect the United States was wrong for attacking Iraq.
Yeah. Well,
and ABJ, I would take Bill Clinton right now over what we've got as well. A moderate Republican or a moderate Democrat over the crap we have now? Yes, absolutely, please. Because we're going to have the worst possible election unless one of them drops out and is replaced.
Wow, we got another super chat.
Alex, going crazy today. Thank you so much, buddy.
I need to get my channel monetized so you can start throwing me some love.
Says Trek writers should have stood up to evil Bush promote isolationism. I call BS at the time. Loved Enterprise theme. Still play it.
I wonder how old you are. My son loves that theme too, and he loves it for the same thing. It's he says it's uplifting. Helps. He likes listening to it when he runs. And
I get I get that you're an isolationist. I disagree with you on that. I think that isolationists eventually get pulled into things that they don't want to be involved in, and they also get, eventually isolationists end up paying for it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And it's, especially if, the United States as an isolationist country would definitely not work. Because we're the largest consumers on the planet. And so if we refused to help people militarily, then everybody would stop giving us like favored nation trading status.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. Oh, wow. Oh, poor us. We can't get cheap shit anymore. I mean, that's the problem.
Well,
whoever brought up Bill Clinton, NAFTA and that whole bullshit, and agreeing to trade with I think a lot of people forget China is a communist nation that we've been turning a blind eye to for 30 years. Fuck Bill Clinton. He did more damage to this country.
Whoa, dude, calm down. All right.
Don't get me started on this politics thing.
Because I will say this. Republicans and Democrats have both turned a blind eye to China. And if you're an isolationist, you take a blind eye to everybody.
Right, and that's the problem with isolationism, because when you do that, if you don't have any friends, guess what? You don't have any friends. It works both ways. Like when you need them, they're not there.
Right.
And you're effed, So.
Right. Anyway, But we're not here to argue about politics with Alex.
Well, let's
As much
get
as
this
I love
shit.
this, much as I love the super chats, I really do. But I don't want to spend the night arguing about politics, even though that would probably be better than talking about
Well,
this
if we,
turd of a movie.
I feel like we'll probably fly through this movie real quick because we both hate it, and then maybe we can swing back around at the end and talk some good old fashioned American politics. That'd be fun.
You know, it's funny because earlier today to try. Here's what I do to lift my spirits, Alex. And you should do this because I know what a hyper conservative you are. Watch Team America: World Police. If you just and when they sing their song, come on, Danny, you can sing it.
I'm sorry. The America, fuck yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's like, come on. I do love that. Although you probably hate it because they also are the world police. So I guess never mind. You'd hate that movie. Well, I guess you're just never going to be happy, Alex. All right. So Star Trek Nemesis starts out with some really weird credits. But then
I really don't like it. It had a Star Wars feel.
It's a lot of this movie has a Star Wars feel. Like you were talking about, like you were mentioning, like how this opening shot is entirely feels like Star Wars, where we zoom past Remus, and then
we go through the credits past Remus,
and then
into Romulus, down to what you called Coruscant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, come on, let's just be real. This looks like Coruscant here.
And this really does look like something out of a video game.
Well, again, I think you're being unfair to the time. This was made 22 years ago.
Fair enough, but still, looking at it now.
And
this is watching it with you yesterday was the first time I'd seen it since watching it in the theater with my mom.
This actually was around the same time as The Phantom Menace, and I think this looks as good as Coruscant.
Yeah.
So I'm so lonely. That song is so horrible. Oh. It looks, you know what it looks like, Lancer, is if you took a section of Coruscant and dropped it on Naboo.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is probably exactly what ILM did. Just saying that's probably what they did. They were like, well, we got Coruscant lying here, we got Naboo lying here. Let's just mash them together and see what happens. And so then we see this is the Romulan Senate. We get our first view inside the Romulan Senate. Although, you know what I think is interesting is why, okay, so you see these two Romulans are standing on a map. This map looks suspiciously like it's supposed to be like where the one dude in the middle is standing, that's the neutral zone. But if that's the neutral zone, why is the majority of the map Federation space?
Well, maybe it's flipped. Maybe the blue part is the Federation space.
No, well, but as far as what we've seen in Trek, I mean, granted, we haven't seen all of Romulan space, but that the curve of Romulan space is always like the Romulan Empire is kind of circular shaped, and the Federation is on its border in one direction, and like the Klingons in another direction, and so, but yeah, I don't know. Just say it. It seems like it's, but either way, then why would they have so much, even if it's the blue section, why is so much of the floor of the Senate dedicated to the Federation?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. And so meanwhile, Senator Hot Chick decides to leave behind a little present. And I gotta say, so they make a keychain weapon that releases Thorlon radiation enough that the entire Romulan Senate is assassinated, and that's not the big weapon development. I mean, like anybody could. I mean, think about. Remember Commodore O from Picard season 1? So the Romulans obviously have agents in the Federation posing as Vulcans, which we knew that all the way back to Enterprise. So get one of these in the Federation Council and imagine the chaos. You know? Anything? You're just not talking now? Danny's just playing with his poop, which that's Danny for you. Danny likes to play with poop. I don't understand what your thing about that poop emoji is.
There we go. Because you're so into poop, you know? Like if I had, like I was thinking about instead of doing stars, putting little poop emojis under our name bars up there, like, you know, for our score.
Well, yeah, that's what I've done in the past, and that's.
Oh, well, there you go.
You see, you still haven't watched any of my review for Last Jedi is almost over, and you still haven't watched any of it.
I told you I'm going to make a playlist and watch it in order all at once.
It's in a playlist.
Oh, perfect. I'll just wait till it's all up then.
Well, it'll all be up on Friday, I think, is the last day of it. Friday or Saturday. Anyway, but yeah, so she leaves her makeup compact behind and it kills everybody. This should absolutely be the weapon that they developed, not, you know, a ship the size of a freaking moon, you know. And hey, Sentai, Ranger, Donnie, how you doing, buddy? Look, as far as Lower Decks ending with season 5, you know, quite frankly, I'm okay with it. Why are you moving the thing now?
I'm trying to get to the guy being like crushed on the floor.
Oh, what when he? Yeah, unfortunately, the way that it does that, sometimes you gotta, you know, it just doesn't like you. Let's see. I had it. There we go.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. Dude needs some serious lotion on his face.
Oh yeah. It's like I still can't tell if it was like ash or rock, like stone, because when he falls, it doesn't like it acts more like stone, you know, like a brittle stone.
And Alex says, speaking of Star Wars, Lucas sell to avoid fandom. Yes, he did. Because he was, you know, it's so funny. I know you love to derail the conversation, Alex. That's like your favorite thing. But if you do it for money, I'm okay with that. The funny thing is that you have people like Nerdrotic and others out there saying, if only George Lucas were running Star Wars. But these are the same people that were crucifying George Lucas when the prequels came out.
I mean, are they really saying that? If only George Lucas?
Yeah, well, some of them have, and Nerdrotic said that before. Is that oh yeah, you know, if only George Lucas was there instead of Kathleen Kennedy, then things would be good. But George Lucas left because he was getting crucified by the fans, and he was tired of it, and he didn't want to deal with it anymore, and so he just said, "F it, I'm selling the franchise," and I don't blame him. You know, so just got to say. Yeah. No, Palpatine's coming up later, ABJ. I quote Palpatine several times during this episode.
You do, yes.
Yeah. And so there, for those of you that like, you know, it's so funny that he's right above Danny, Wesley Crusher there. Danny loved seeing Wesley on screen.
I about lost my shit on the watch along. I'm not going to do it again. If you want to see me have a meltdown, just go watch that.
Yeah. So yeah, Danny really appreciated seeing Wesley there because and Wesley's just looking extra smug.
This is when you calm me down. You walked me off the ledge because I was like, it makes no sense. He shouldn't fucking be there. And you're like, no, we're in the Nexus. I was like, okay.
Yeah, this is in the Nexus. I mean, all you got to do is think about what room on the ship could this possibly be? Look at that. I mean, I guess it's probably a holodeck, but still.
Holodeck. Yeah.
But it makes no sense.
Definitely a holodeck.
Yeah. Chief Cook says she'd have to get past Federation security, obviously talking about the makeup thing. Look,
Mom.
she got past Romulan security. Federation security would be easy. I'm sorry.
I'm not hating on Wesley, although everybody does. My problem is right now he's supposed to be
He's a traveler.
A traveler. So I don't know. He not even a line of dialogue explaining why he's there. Like, don't get me started on it. Sorry.
Yeah. And maybe it'll be funny as if the traveler was behind him, like massaging his shoulders, Say, oh, it's okay,
Right.
honey. We all know about what Wesley and the traveler are really doing. And so Picard gets to say, shut up, Data. What he really needed to say was, shut up, Wesley, who is again in the shot here.
Yeah.
Like, that's like all Wesley was. He was the photobomb of this movie.
Yeah.
Because now there are some deleted scenes where he had a little bit of dialogue, but they're not. Yeah, but the stupid thing is, if he's just there for the wedding, that's fine. But why is it Worf is just there for the wedding too, and he's on the bridge the rest of the time? Why isn't Wesley on the bridge for the rest of the time?
Ooh, we have another super chat.
And Planet X with two big ones says, I'm so effing salty about Lower Decks being canceled. Don't be. Just make sure you watch season 5, enjoy it, and appreciate it. Look, we only got 2 seasons of the original animated series. So, granted, this is not like that animated series. This is really for adults, but enjoy it, And look, the problem is, this ultimately could be a good thing because they're reeling in Trek a little bit. I think they've overextended it. I think having all these different Star Trek shows is not a good idea. And we just got a donation from Mercer. It says, according to the DVD commentary track, the reception was not on the Enterprise. It was in Alaska, and greetings. No, it's on the Enterprise. I don't care what the DVD commentary track said, because the next thing we see is them. Is the Enterprise is the only ship in range of going to Romulus. So it would make no sense that they're in Alaska. Are you saying that the Enterprise at Earth is the only ship between Earth and Romulus? That means that there's like 5 starships in the entire Federation at the most.
Right.
Yeah. So no, they establish. In fact, let's scroll forward here a little bit because and Wesley, I'm not trying, or I'm Mercer. I mean, so, wow, I called
Freudian slip.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not trying to pick on you, buddy, but no time has passed. They
Shut up, Mercer.
because they're en route to Beta Z, and then what? Okay, so they have their little toast.
Yeah, and see, we cut to they're on the ship,
and we cut immediately to an exterior shot of the ship. There's no indication that they are anywhere but on the holodeck.
Now maybe the holodeck's programmed to replicate a place in Alaska. Okay.
Yeah, I would buy that the holodeck is, and maybe re-listen to that commentary. I've never listened to the DVD commentary on this one, but the. Maybe it's a holodeck program of Alaska. That would make sense.
What's up, Creed? Thanks for joining.
That is where Riker is from.
No, and Thomas, supportsalty.com. This gets brought up in our watch along.
Yeah.
It literally is.
Yeah, the Enterprise is almost always the only ship in range, which
every
makes
time.
Yeah. I'm beginning to think the Enterprise is the only Federation ship with warp drive. because it makes no sense that they're just always. And in fact, I even talk about. So think about Shinzon's plan here. Yeah, I know, Malfeast. They skipped the nude wedding. I'm sure you're very disappointed. Morpheus's stupid Irving Berlin line. And
oh my god! And I lose my shit over Worf. Why is Worf, if he's there on leave,
yeah,
to attend the wedding of his former lover to Riker? Why is he on the bridge working?
Right. Now, and in fact, okay, so here, Thomas, I will, here's where I'll challenge you a little bit on your thing about the stars on the map. This shows what looks like it's like a inverted version of the map from the original series.
Balance of Terror.
Yeah. And it almost looks like those two dots next to R and Z inside are supposed to be Romulus and Remus. Which
I imagine they do the same thing they do in our day and age. They just hire a jizz mopper, A
jizz mopper?
A creep. His comments on the screen.
Oh.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah. No. That's in Lower Decks. Watch Lower Decks. Remember, they hated cleaning up the splooge in the holodecks. That was one of the jobs that the ensigns on the lower decks of the ship had to do. So yes, that's
super chat.
And so this one, thank you, Mercer says Memory Alpha confirmed my findings.
Oh, so it must be true. It's on the internet, so it must be true. Whatever.
We're at Earth and the Alaskan Mountains. Say look up Nemesis on Memory Alpha. First of all, Memory Alpha, you do know that's just a wiki.
Yeah. Like I could contribute to that if I wanted to.
You could have typed that in 5 minutes ago just to prove your point.
And let the rock drop some gospel on you, son. I don't give 2 squirts of monkey. Sorry,
Really?
I know. I stopped myself. I'm sorry.
So let's see. What?
I mean, there was just a comment I put up on the screen. It's all good.
I can't see it because I have a different screen up.
Oh, bummer. Anyway, go ahead. You were saying.
Dabo girls' jobs after hours. Oh, to clean up the spooge. Okay. That's dumb. So, what are you saying that, because it says Earth, Captain Picard speaks about, and then next stop Betazoid. Later, as the Enterprise E is making its way to Betazoid. That makes no sense. I'm sorry. Here, let's. I wonder if I don't think I.
If even if it's correct, the movie does a piss poor job of conveying it. Doesn't really convey it. So as usual, if it's not on screen, it's not canon.
Right. Yeah. Hold on. Let's see. We'll say.
Here, I thought we'd zoom through this. We're still in like the first 5 minutes.
Hey, don't blame me.
Shit. That's fine. 10 minutes anyway.
Blame Alex and Mercer. Okay. Oh. Hold on. All right. Oh, username is unavailable. So how about that? Man, I hate. Okay. Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm just
trying. He's doing that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, he's
there we go.
That.
All right.
What's something fun I can do while I'm waiting?
All right. That sounds. You're not changing things again, are you? Please don't. All right.
Here we go. Hold up.
I wonder if there's any good movies out this weekend.
Would you like me to recommend you some
What are you
new
doing?
movies?
Oh my god, what was that?
Hello, my name is Lit, I am your in-car information system. I can give you recommendations for any type of entertainment. Would you like to hear about the most popular movies in theaters today based on critic scores from Rotten Apples?
Okay, yeah, I would actually.
The #1 movie in the country this weekend is about a homosexual chipmunk who learns how to play chess. This 4-hour epic displays 10 full chess matches in real time.
No, absolutely not. That sounds literally horrendous. I can't even believe that's real.
Okay, well, the second highest rated movie, with 98% on Rotten Apples, is about a poor starving girl living in the 1920s who finds refuge in a cannibalistic swinger commune, where they all learn the value of love while feasting on the flesh of the innocent.
Who's rating these?
These are ratings from the top film critics in the country.
I am so sick of this. Honestly, I'll just find my own movie.
All right. So
Did I kill enough time for you?
You did,
Oh,
because
okay,
Mercer, take a look at that Memory Alpha page now. I fixed it.
That's. You had to prove your point.
I actually had to, I actually, in that amount of time that you played that clip, I created an account with Memory Alpha, logged in with that account, and changed it to say Earth, and then in parentheses, holodeck. So,
Internet, folks, you gotta love it.
So there you go.
So if you like that little clip and wonder what the heck it was about, in the description are links to our Criticless pages. Criticless is a fun way to. It's almost like a social media platform, but it's centered around. Your movie reviews,
Right?
And anybody can do it. So there's no gatekeepers or anything. And I'm amassing quite a bit of reviews under my belt. Actually, like more than a lot of your bigger name people. And I actually take the time to write reviews. The skimpiest one was my Knox Goes Away review, because I was just so tired. I watched it. I couldn't sleep one night and I watched it. Man, it was so good. Highly recommend Knox Goes Away, guys. You can get it on Amazon Prime right now.
And Thomas, it's not that I changed something that didn't agree with me. I changed something that didn't agree with the facts as they are.
Yes.
There is no way that they're. I mean, because they would have said like 6 months later or something if it was that serious a period of time had gone by. And why would they be? So are you telling me Beta Z is near Romulus?
Super chat.
And this is a message for you, Danny.
Read the chat. I'm trying. I'm sorry. Mm. Oh, hey, Ariel's in the house. What's up, Ariel?
You just want to get Ariel's avatar up on the screen.
I mean, who doesn't? Look at that. Everybody loves boobs. Men love boobs. Women love boobs. Babies love boobs. Everybody loves boobs.
Not all women love boobs. Just, I mean, just make that clear. However, thank you, Alex. Oh goodness, what a day! All right, so so they're on their way to okay. Well, actually, they're not on their way to Romulus yet. So
they're on their way to Beta Z right now.
They're on their way to Beta Z when, and this is where Shinzon's plan is really stupid, because Shinzon's plan relied on them being in the area and picking up the positronic stuff on the scanners so that they could go find B4 and Fed Doc. Way, have not talked to you in a little while. How you doing, buddy?
Super chat
says, I remember the what madness is the. Oh wait, and Mercer also. Mercer says, I remember the commentary from director Stuart Bard. He wanted the close up of Picard to give the impression he's on the ship until it pans out. Well, no, the background behind him, yes, it mirrors what the bridge set is, and we'll get to Fed Doc in just a second. The little railing behind him is definitely reminiscent of the bridge set, and I get that that's what he was going for, but they're clearly on the holodeck. Because why would they go to Alaska and have a reception in dress uniform, no less, and then get on the Enterprise and fly out to Beta Z for the wedding? That makes no effing sense.
And we have another super chat in the waiting after the Fed Dog one.
All right, so let's, man, you guys are, you know what? I really appreciate it. If we never get to the movie, I'll be perfectly happy with that.
Right.
So what madness is this, says the Fed Dog. What have I missed during my long exile? Also, Betazoid near Romulus. I'm surprised the Federation would tolerate the enemy so close to the gates. Also, hello there, lads. And good to see you, Fed. Fed, just so you know, is in Australia.
Oh, right on.
And so don't mess
So
with them.
it's tomorrow there. Right on. Okay.
Yeah. Not only, by the way, I found out why your country looks like Mad Max land as opposed to looking like a normal place, like everywhere in the northern hemisphere. You know, and it's actually kind of interesting. So, the Earth's orbit, as most people know, is elliptical. It's not a perfect circle, unless, of course, you don't believe that the Earth is orbiting anything, Darren. But
A
the
Betazoid is from Beta Z. Come on, people. It's not the name of the planet. The Dominion didn't invade Betazoid. They invaded Beta Z. Betazoids live on Beta Z.
And Thomas, I may first of all, as far as Thomas the super chat, why you are add to the episode where Quark had a sex change that he was hit on by Danny, you know that's probably not a bad idea.
I wouldn't. You know what? I wouldn't even be mad at you.
I know. Just sneak that in somewhere where a character named Danny, you know, you can see in the background.
You got to say Danny the Dork Knight. That way we all know you're talking about me. I'll screen cap that. That would be, yeah. I wouldn't even be mad at it.
But okay, so back to Australia being a burnt wasteland. The reason is because, okay, the elliptical orbit of the sun is, the Earth is closest to the sun.
I tell you what, much like the...
You're just not going to let me finish.
No, much like the Viceroy... hey, you guys complain when I don't interact with the chat, so I got it on screen. Much like the Viceroy invades Deanna, you're right.
Yeah.
I'd like to invade some Betazoids, so maybe they did, Ariel. Maybe you're right.
But the difference is he'd like to do it now, like because she's the right age for him. But the
man, what have I told you? Like, I'm sober now. I you know, the beer goggles are gone. I like them young and tight. I don't know. Like,
yeah. You're saying that now, but you were defending your love of 70-year-olds a couple of weeks ago. So you know, I'm just saying. Up until when you saw what France Wynn looks like now, that was what turned you. You were like, oh wow, I'm okay. Never mind.
Yeah, as a bridge too far. Yeah.
So but anyway, so the burnt wasteland thing. So Earth is on an elliptical orbit around the sun, and Earth is closest to the sun in January. So that's why your winters are hot and our winters are cold, and it's furthest away from the sun in like July, which is why our summers are mild in comparison to yours. And so because the summer winter is the tilt of the Earth, and so when we're getting the most daylight in the northern hemisphere, the Earth is farthest away from the sun. So we're getting the least intense light. And so that's why your, Mad Max can only happen in Australia. And Fed Doc with another $5 Australian. It says, normal, I can't speak for the rest of us, but how dare you, Salty, calling me a damn dirty normie. 'Tis the land of scorching drought and flooding rains. Yes. Your place is just... And Australia just tries to kill you. I mean, that's one thing. I'll give Australians, even the weakest Australian is tougher than the strongest American because your entire country is trying to kill you. You know, not the people, the land and every piece of wildlife. People don't realize, even koala bears, sweet little koala bears, they got massive claws and they're trying to get their syphilis on you. You don't want to mess with Australia. Thank you, Danny. I guess. All right, so back to the crap test. So Shinzon's plan was that the Enterprise just has to happen to be near this planet and pick up a positronic signature passively, by the way. They just have to happen to be scanning and pick it up so that they can then go get B4 so that he can infiltrate the Enterprise. And don't give me they were just waiting to trap any Starship deal, because he specifically needs Picard's blood just to survive. Speaking of Mad Max, we also get this crap.
They should have, like we were saying on the watch along, they could have cut out the whole subplot of B4 and the subplot of the mind raping, and had Picard been an admiral instead, visiting for the wedding, and just those little pieces, just rearranging those pieces.
Yeah, would have made it before. But the problem was, again, the director and the writer they weren't into Trek. They didn't know anything about Trek lore. Yeah. That was the problem. So that is a problem.
Yeah, the story by credits are Rick Berman and Brent Spiner, by the way.
Right, which is why Brent Spiner gets so much screen time.
Yeah.
And Fed Dog says, also salty, damn right, though he missed one part due to the irregular, slightly shape of the Earth, Australia's slight, tiny slither of a percentage closer to the sun. Well, there you go. I didn't know that part too. So yeah, you guys are just, it's Mad Max down there. It's just, but the funny thing is what the Mad Max movie,
what's up, Novanix?
The Mad Max movie show us.
Novanix. Just saying hi. People in the chat.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw that you about that person, but, so the Mad Max movie show us, and the Terminator with $1 says Wesley Crusher and John Connor are the same person. Their franchises are linked. That's just nightmarish to even think about.
Anything else would have made this movie more entertaining.
Yeah. So. No, and no, Fury Road, let me say this, ABJ. Fury Road is an insult to the Mad Max franchise.
Something else we agree on, surprisingly. Yeah. Everybody loved that movie.
Yeah, everybody keeps talking about, Fury Road was good. No, Fury Road absolutely sucks. It's not a freaking Mad Max movie. Because
It's a race movie, is all it is.
It's a race movie, and they replace Mad Max with a chick. They just don't call her Mad Maxine, which is what they should have done. They should have just, since they were recasting Max anyway, they should have just called this Mad Maxine. But maybe people would have thought that was too much like Maxi Pad or something. But, which is, the new movie, I think. Isn't that what they're calling it? But, no, Fury Road sucked. It absolutely sucked. But what I was trying to say is the Mad Max movies, of which there are only 3, and they all star Mel Gibson. The Mad Max movies show us one thing. Even gay people in Australia are ridiculously tough. Because everybody in the Mad Max world is except for Max himself, is gay. I mean, look at them. Am I lying?
No comment.
Yeah, because he knows I'm telling the truth. Come on.
So anyways, back to the shit show that is Nemesis. Seems like we're just looking for anything else to talk about.
Fed even agrees with me. And he is our resident Australian.
There you go. All right.
I can call Australians gay because I have an Australian friend. All right, so
Well, Melphis, I would say it's not as big an insult to John Connor as that last Terminator movie, but or the Genesis one.
it's Genesis.
Genesis, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, can look. I'm sorry, Hollywood. You're not going to make your movies better by misspelling the title. You know. Anyway, so he cleverly hides a soon type robot, which somehow he gets, which that's never explained. Where did he get B4? You know, considering there were only two Soonian robots in existence prior to this movie.
Hold up. I'm curious. You keep going. I'm sorry. I'm looking something up.
Yeah, got it on eBay. You're probably right, Thomas. Anyway, so they go to Mad Max Land and they find the pieces of B4 and they run into some Remans apparently, who get really pissed off. What?
I was really hoping there was a pitch meeting for this, but there's not.
No, pitch meeting doesn't do a lot of older movies. And Dr. Crusher thinks B4's eyes suck for some reason. And Fed, you know, I haven't read any of the books because the books would not be canonical anyway. But yeah, there's no explanation to any of this. His plan makes no sense.
None. This is just yeah.
If he had simply developed the Thorlon device, and that was his big Thaleron. That's what it is. Thaleron radiation. If he had just developed that as a weapon that could be used as a weapon of mass destruction, and that was the danger, that's fine. That you don't need 17 levels to his plan to where this whole movie is like the Jabba the Hutt escape scene from Return of the Jedi because the plan makes no sense. Don't get me started on that plan, by the way. Meanwhile, we get Danny's favorite scene in the entire movie because we get...
Oh, my God. You guys, if you guys really want to see me have a meltdown before I pass out from boredom, that is, go check out our supportsalty.com. Check out our watch along of this.
Yeah. So yeah, Admiral Janeway, who's, you know, yeah.
Because this should have been, the Admiral part should have been Picard. Okay, first of all, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet. Patrick Stewart, even though only 4 years has passed, he looks considerably older than he did in the last movie. Like, it's jarring to me. Like...
But, you know, 4 years when you're in your 50s are a lot more than 4 years when you're in your 30s.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
You know? And keep in mind, like, Patrick Stewart he was fairly young when he actually took the role of Picard. It's just that he's always looked older than he was. But then the years are catching up to him at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Anyway, so...
Super chat.
And we got another donation. Thank you, Mercer. Says, Luke had no plan except to trust his friends. He didn't know the layout of the place. His main goal was to get his friends in there and then
Improvise.
You know what? Then that is not a plan. That's stupid. That's suicide.
Right, Ariel? Right? That's what I was saying in the watch along.
Besides, yes, he absolutely had a plan, because if he didn't have a plan, he wouldn't have stuck his lightsaber in R2-D2. Sticking his lightsaber in R2-D2 is really the nail in the coffin of a statement like that, because that means that he knew he was going to be in a position where R2-D2 would be outdoors and able to launch the lightsaber so that Luke could grab it. And so he knew that the sail barge thing was going to happen exactly the way it did. So his plan was to get R2D2 onto the sand barge so that he could get the lightsaber, and to get Lando as his guard to watch his back, and to get Han thawed, but Chewie in jail, so that, and Prince, it's just dumb. Hey, Janeway killed the Queen. No, well, apparently she didn't, because the Queen comes back in Picard season 3, remember? So,
Yeah.
So apparently,
only thing Janeway did was get a ship lost in space and took 7 years to get it back, and then she didn't even really do it.
right?
So.
Yeah, her and the version of her that did do it violated the Prime Directive to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Perfect pause right there.
yeah, right there.
Super chat.
That sums it up right there. That's this whole movie. And Poe Dameron says somehow the Queen has returned. Yes, indeed, the Queen has returned. So you know what? This is a great Picard meme face. I'm surprised it's never been used.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway. So she tells Picard, "Hey, guess what? You're going to meet the Romulans because they have a new Praetor, and yay, whoop-de-doo." So they head there because they're the only ship in range, and then they get to see the Scimitar, and they say, "That's no moon, that's a space station."
No, he delivers a
I know,
completely out of character shit line that really set me off. It's just
He says
he's not supposed to be a badass.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I look, I was cool with it in First Contact because I know that's what you're going to bring up, because he was dealing with his PTSD and it was direct revenge on a wrong that was done against him. This
PTSD.
is whatever. This is just shit. It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, like First Contact.
Just going to respectfully disagree on that. But
This thing, I mean, besides that, look, if they could build a ship like the Scimitar, like the only thing they needed to do was build a super big ship with 47 photon torpedo launchers and 20 million disruptor banks and regenerative primary and secondary shields, and all that makes it so that it can fire while cloaked. Why didn't they do this like 20 years ago and take over the Federation?
or just take over Romulus. Like, aren't these the Remans?
Yeah, but I'm saying
start small. Take over Romulus.
if all
and
you
then,
got
and then
yeah,
the
but
Federation.
that ship could, yeah.
And Daniel Picard looks right at the camera and says, "She's a predator."
Right, as if he's like this tactician now,
Yeah.
you know, because, you know, he's trying to be like Kirk, I guess. So then they beam down, and Picard shows after they try to make him look like he knows what he's talking about militarily while in orbit. Here they tried to make it look like he is the dumbest fool in the history of Star Trek.
Right. People gave Kirk shit for his away teams. Check out, not even one expendable character here, by the way. They're all
Yeah. Not only do they not have an expendable red shirt, they have a guy who's not even part of the crew there.
Yeah. And the ship's counselor. What do we need her for? She gonna, you know, she
Offer him therapy.
yeah, she's gonna, you know, give free therapy sessions to the bad guys, talk them out of their feelings or whatever.
And no, Fed, it's not like the Yamato from World War II. It would be like if the Japanese built a ship that literally had cannons that could blow up the entire coast of California in one shot. You know, that it's yeah. But yeah, so everybody beams down. And so, and they're like, "Ooh, this looks really creepy." So let's just wander around blindly on this ship. And then this guy comes out. Now, look. Okay, I'll grant you the dramatic light. By the way, tell me this isn't Palpatine's chamber, which I do go off about during our watch along, you know.
Ready. Yeah, well, you were hilarious during the watch long. You kept quoting Palpatine, because it does look very Return of the Jedi-ish.
Yes. So he comes out and he's like, I look forward to completing your training. Anytime you will call me master. Yeah. But no, so he comes out and he starts talking to him. Now, the second he opens his mouth, Picard should know who he is. Because, and this is what I challenge Danny and any of you that are over the age of 40, okay? Any of you that are over the age of 40.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say,
I remember this.
Imagine if you walked into a dimly lit room and a person came out from behind a partition and it was you from 20 years ago. Are you telling me you wouldn't immediately recognize you from 20 years ago?
Right. Now, the important thing is dimly lit, because if I heard me, like 22-year-old version of me talking to, you said 20 years, so 24-year-old version of me talking to me today,
right?
Even if I couldn't see him, it might even take a little bit, but I would start immediately going, what the hell? Like,
yeah, you'd say, wow, this guy sounds a lot like me.
Am I having an acid flashback? What's going on here?
But add to that, Picard is bald and this guy is bald.
Which makes no sense.
Right, I know, because he wasn't bald when we saw him in the Academy before, but, hey. Again, the writer and director never bothered to look up the lore. And then, he gets this close to them. It's not like the room is pitch black.
Yeah.
He can see, and Data has already scanned him. They know he's human. Not only do they know he's human, but, can't a tri, which, of course, the dumb thing, he cuts his hand and gives it to him so they could look at his blood. But can't a tricorder analyze someone's DNA, like, instantly?
Yeah, I mean, you would think.
You okay? What are you doing?
I'm doing some research because the episode is called Tapestry. I'm trying to find a screenshot of younger Picard because he's got hair.
Yeah. Well, anybody that's seen TNG knows that Picard had hair.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
When he was in the Academy. So, yeah, and then he brings the lights up. And Picard still doesn't recognize him.
Yeah, come on. You don't look that different at that age. You know what I mean? Like,
right. I mean, granted, I know and by the way, originally that was going to be Patrick Stewart playing Shinzon, which it should have been. And in fact, if they were making this movie today using Marvel de-aging technology, that would have been actually pretty cool.
Yeah, there's no way they could have done it back then. I mean,
yeah, I understand. Yeah, they couldn't pull that off back then, but I understand that Tom Hardy does not look anything like Picard. He looks like Venom, but
he doesn't even really look like Venom yet.
Yeah, he looks more like Bane. He looks like anorexic Bane. Yeah. But the. Anyway, I get that, but that's just a problem with the actor. If that is genuinely supposed to be Picard from 30 years ago, I think is what they say, you would instantly recognize him. If somebody looked exactly like what I looked like when I was in the Army, I would recognize him immediately. And if that person was even like coming down the steps enigmatically talking about, the similarities that we share, and then lights come up, oh, it's me. Holy crap, they made a clone.
In fact, oh my God. In fact, Picard even had hair in this episode.
Mercer just posted a picture of Picard with hair. Thank you.
Oh, where?
So if you want, it's in the chat. So if you want to see it, check out Mercer's link there.
I wonder if it's the one I was just about to share. It is. Okay. Yeah, that's the one I was about to share. And that's way after the Academy. So, yeah.
Well, is it the one where he's, where you see him, Patrick Stewart, with a little more hair?
Yeah,
from,
but even here, this one. Let me share this one. This is from the age that this guy, same age as this guy we're looking at on your screen right now. Share.
yeah. So
All right, hold up.
No,
Same
wrong.
age as this guy
Wrong
we're
one.
looking at on your screen. Right? Hold up. Why is that not working?
you're sharing your system audio. You're sharing your system audio. You need to mute the YouTube feed or what? Okay.
Hold up. That was the wrong one. Sorry. Here we go.
Oh, well, you're sharing
Look,
YouTube.
that's
Yeah, that's Tapestry. Yeah,
yeah, that's Picard.
right,
He's not bald.
right.
Okay, just saying. Ridiculous.
Yes. But yeah, unfortunately, this is but okay, fine. But I'm fine with that. They're just trying. But if they want to say that's exactly what Picard looked like,
No, but they even later they double down with Picard looking at a photo.
right? Of Tom Hardy in a Starfleet uniform, and he's like, "Yep, I remember him." I was so impulsive back then. And which is stupid because that would imply they knew about the incident with the whatchamacallit. I can't remember what they're called now. The big guy, but Picard getting stabbed.
Oh, the Nausicaans?
Yeah, Nausicaan. But if that is exactly what Picard looked like, except for without the scar on his lip, because they wanted to imply that he'd been beaten, so they gave him a scar. Which, I'm sorry, they should have just jacked his face up. Then at least it might have been believable that Tom Hardy was playing the role.
Fed Doc. Those are our favorite uniforms, actually. But
Well, no, I agree with Fed actually on that. I do not like the collarless version of the Maroons.
they're all collarless. He
No,
just
no,
didn't
no,
have
no,
the
no.
turtleneck.
Right, but that's what he means.
Okay.
When they took the turtleneck away, they look stupid to me.
Yeah, I agree with. I agree with. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so this version of baby Picard, grown-up Picard doesn't even recognize, which makes no sense until he starts talking about how he had Shallot's disease or whatever, and I was like, nobody cares. And so he's like, here, take my blood so you can analyze it. And then he shows that he's a racist against Romulans. He has dinner with Picard. All this is just padding at this point. We didn't need a lot of this. Patrick Stewart, so Patrick Stewart should have been Admiral Picard, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
And Patrick Stewart should have played Shinzon.
Yeah.
I think that don't get me wrong, it's not a diss against Tom Hardy. I think Tom Hardy is a fine actor, but he's not Patrick Stewart. He doesn't look anything like Patrick Stewart. He just happens to, do the accent, but even that's not quite right. The voice sounds off. So, yeah. So they figure, there's the picture.
Oh God.
So that's supposed, and they even changed the uniform.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's, although I mean, at least that's the TOS style cadet uniform. So I'll give him that much. But and then we get the mind rape. There's a great pause for you.
Yeah.
Which the mind rapes. By the way, notice Riker is literally on top of her, and she's got a blanket in between them.
Yeah. That's that. I pointed that out. Yeah.
Yeah. How are they even doing it? I mean, look, I'm not asking for Star Trek to be X-rated. I don't think that this scene belongs in here at all. I think
this role, I'll send you the article. This role led Tom Hardy down such a dark depression. He contemplated suicide. Did you know
I know.
that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
That's why it was so long before his acting career got back on track.
Yeah.
and that was really when he did Bane. But this scene here, this is. I agree with you, Eric. This is one of the most cringy scenes in all of Trek. It was completely unnecessary. It was tasteless, and then putting the blanket over her, it was nonsensical.
Yeah, like we said, just like the B4, they could have totally, even more so than the B4 stuff, they could have totally removed this subplot and saved us, because this movie's like 2 hours long.
Oh, wait,
they could have easily cut 30 minutes out of this movie.
Figured it out. Riker and Troy are Mormons.
Oh, okay.
That's why they have the blanket in between them. You probably don't know about that.
Okay.
Do you know about that?
What, their underwear? Their magical underwear or whatever?
Yeah, they're called sacred garments, not magical underwear, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Then the Viceroy says, we cut off communication down there. You get it? Blah, blah, blah. They use B4 to get the information from the network to steal all the Federation tactical information. So what exactly is Shinzon's evil plan? We'll never know. Because was his evil plan to get because what did he need Starfleet tactical information for if he has a ship that has a perfect cloak, as they said? They literally say in dialogue that this ship could fly within 5 meters of a starship and not be detected. And so they could fly the ship straight to Earth, activate the radiation beam, and kill everyone on Earth. That this ship literally is the ultimate first strike weapon. Why do they need the tactical information? Why do they need ship deployments? They shouldn't even care. So is it to get that? Is that why he sent B4 over? So he set up that whole stupid grand scheme to lure them to detect B4 so they could get tactical information that they don't even need? But meanwhile, he has dinner with Picard, sends Picard home, then kidnaps Picard because he desperately needs Picard's DNA. Why did he ever let him leave the dinner engagement? And in fact, they showed that they could kidnap Picard by somehow knowing Picard's biosigns among all the people on the Enterprise E. Their sensors are that good. So why didn't they just kidnap him right off the bat? And then destroy the Enterprise?
Yeah, man, there's just so much with this.
So anyway. So Picard and here we have this great scene where there's a good. I'm sorry, just say it.
It's like that. You've seen those silly bloopers with him, right? That's kind of what that reminded me of.
Okay, so tell me this isn't a scene from freaking Star Wars here.
Yeah.
Where Picard and Data are literally having a corridor blaster fight. All you need, and I think I mentioned this in our walkthrough, all you need is C-3PO and R2-D2 to be scooting across the hallway. Because that's the only thing that's missing. And then they get in their Scorpion-class attack fighter and fly it inside the ship to escape. They get out, and the Enterprise makes a beeline for the Federation. Because, again, why didn't the Scimitar just... and by the way, the Scimitar's literally hovering over the Enterprise as they're flying, but they wait until they get to the Bazon Rift to attack them. But the Scimitar has the Enterprise completely and utterly outgunned. Why not just destroy the Enterprise?
Dude, I mean, I know this is for the chat, but you and I had this. You know how I feel. Like
Yeah.
like it
I
was
think
painful.
you were asleep. You were asleep.
I might have been asleep at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 30, 35. So I'm definitely giving this like a 31. It's barely better than Generations. Yeah. I was looking at my Criticalist scores of the Star Trek movies. Sorry.
So it's I'm sorry. This is way worse than Generations. So
Well, Generations killed Kirk twice. It's always going to be my least favorite Star Trek.
yeah.
movie.
So then we see there's a fleet of starships that's waiting to intercept Shinzon. But considering what the quick work Shinzon makes of Romulan ships, what makes him think that a few Federation ships are going to, especially considering that we know, okay, one of them is Intrepid class. We don't know what the Valiant is. The Galaxy is obviously a Galaxy class. The Nova is obviously a Nova class.
Ariel, I already answered this question. It's because they killed Kirk twice.
It's, you're not, he doesn't understand common sense. So, yeah.
It's fine. Killed too many brain cells.
Yeah, and the Archer is probably an NX class just for fun.
Right.
So then we get the Battle of the Bazon Rift, which is not too bad as far as battles go, except that it's way too fast paced. And then they get desperate, so they let Troy drive.
And what does she do?
She immediately crashes the
She
ship.
crashes the
Again.
ship.
Oh, but not before Troy gets her revenge by psychically connecting to the Viceroy.
Remember me?
Yeah.
Oh God.
And which is so stupid because when they do that scene, it's like, okay, we've already seen the Enterprise hit the Scimitar many times with phasers and torpedoes to no effect. And so then they make a big deal out of her being able to track exactly where the Scimitar is. Like, ooh, now we can hit them again. And this time, for no reason, it does more damage, except that this is the only time we see quantum torpedoes.
Not only that, it was so ridiculous, and I pointed this out in the watch along. When the ships are wedged together, right? The Enterprise has just rammed into the Scimitar, and the Scimitar. Now they're in space, okay?
Right.
For things to have worked the way they did, the way physics works, folks, is so. In the movie, the Scimitar backs away and separates itself, but while doing so, it's showing like that it's snagged on the Enterprise and tears it up even more. But like it should be dragging the ship with it because the Enterprise is not giving any opposing force, i.e., it's not also got its reverse jets on like the Scimitar.
Only if they were both pulling away from each other should they separate.
Or if the Enterprise was wedged and being held back by something.
Right.
None of those things happened. They were both floating in space. So it was so stupid. It was so stupid.
Yeah. And by the way, so then we get our second corridor blaster battle. Only this time with Riker and Worf against.
What scene was it? I can't remember where I was like, oh, the guy who wrote this movie clearly like mixed up Star Wars with Star Trek. You know, it was just
It's like half the scenes in this movie. You can
yeah.
see. But, and this is what I love, we even get, and if you listen carefully, it even sounds like Star Wars, the blasters.
You were even doing running commentary. You were reciting lines from one of the fight scenes in Star Wars.
Well, because right here we get into the garbage chute, Flyboy. Right here, look at that. Okay,
here it comes. Yeah.
Woohoo! That's just
straight out of Star Wars.
I don't care what you smell. It's like. Oh man, it's so dumb. So then all of a sudden we get into the set of Alien down here. This is where I was commenting on that. But not only that, so they start out this battle on deck 29. Keep in mind that the what's the name of this class again? I can't believe I'm forgetting now.
What are we? The class of what?
This class of starship.
Oh, the Enterprise E.
Yeah.
Oh, what is Thomas? I know you know. Off the top of your
And
head.
it's the Galaxy class, and then the Sovereign. Thank you, Sovereign class.
Sovereign class.
And we even looked it up. Back in Star Trek First Contact, Picard says there are 24 decks on a Sovereign class
We
starship.
did. This is on the watch along. He looked it up.
Now, the one guy makes the mistake of saying deck 26, but now they're on deck 29. So apparently they added 3 more decks to the 2 decks that were already added to the original 24.
Right.
But Riker and the Viceroy jump down a garbage chute, land in these subdecks, have a fist fight, and then
Palpatine gets thrown down the.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
the Viceroy literally falls down a bottomless pit to his death.
A la Palpatine in the Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is, remember, they
Give a little bit more. They show him getting smaller, just like Palpatine.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to. So remember, they went down a garbage chute from deck 29 to the deck where they're fighting now, and then we get that.
Yeah. And it looks like if you just by the windows alone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm counting 10 before the light washes it completely out. You know, so
yeah. So yeah, that makes all the sense. Which again, it just goes back to the show that nobody looked up the lore. They didn't even look up the lore of the last couple of movies, let alone the series. So then Picard beams over to Shinzon's ship because he's got to still prove what a badass he is by single-handedly taking on all the Remans.
Which he does successfully, by the way.
And he does it. And then he kills Shinzon with the move from Excalibur. And then Data kills himself.
Stanley, I said the same thing, but even if that were the case, the math still doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, even if you say there's no deck 13, okay, fine, we'll say. Even if 29 decks is what you got, what explains the bottomless pit underneath deck 29?
Yeah, I mean, just doesn't make sense.
So, it makes no sense that there's a bottomless pit underneath deck 20. I mean, we're talking Discovery level physics here, folks.
Yeah, like
Discovery level physics.
It's so funny because I hadn't seen this movie since I saw it with my mom in the theater, and I remember we hated it. We were so bummed, and then we didn't get anything for years, like well over a decade. And I didn't think it possible.
It was not that long. Remember, 2009 was the next film.
Fine, whatever. It felt like over a decade.
Yeah.
The point is, going back and watching this with you yesterday, I like it even less. Like it's even more offensive to me than it was back then. You know.
Yeah. You're probably right, Stanley. That's where all the attack drones are. So yeah.
I might even put this below Generations.
I absolutely would. And you know, I remember that when they were, I saw an interview with Jonathan Frakes when they were in production for this movie, and he was talking in this interview about how finally Star Trek is going to be an action franchise, which is what the fans always wanted.
No, it's not.
It's like, so you guys really have no clue as to what your own fans want.
No, that's every time, and they made a conscious decision to bring in outsiders. They wanted people who weren't fans of Star Trek for this movie.
Right.
They made the studio
Because
made that
it
decision.
worked so well with the original series franchise.
Because they wanted to do a mistake that J.J. Abrams would make in the future. They wanted this movie to appeal to mainstream audiences, to fans of Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is Star Trek. It will never do that. Chris Pine, the Popcast guys brothers got right with that Chris Pine footage that they showed.
I've seen it where Chris Pine
Yeah.
talks about how Star Trek will always be for the nerds. It's not.
Yeah, you don't need $100 million budget for a Star Trek movie.
No.
20 or 30 million. That's all you need.
In fact, I think that every Star Trek series except for Lower Decks was grossly overproduced. And yes, that includes Picard. Yes, that includes Strange New Worlds, even though I like Strange New Worlds. When I say overproduced, I mean, and in fact, somebody, if you look it up on YouTube, somebody did a really good video. I think it was Rowan Johnson, about Star Trek's cinematic problem, that they're constantly trying to make Star Trek more cinematic. That's why they have the black bars on the top and the bottom, even of the shows, to make it the same format as you would see in theaters. But you're not watching it in theaters. You should just make it 16:9. And they're trying to make the camera constantly moving and rotating and doing stuff that's all fancy like they do in movies. But you're not making movies. You're making a TV show. Stop trying to make Star Trek cinematic for everything. Instead, just write good stories. That's what people want. And that the reason, yes, the most successful Star Trek in the past have been action episodes and action movies. Like if you look at Balance of Terror, The Doomsday Machine, which are two of the most memorable episodes in all of Trek.
I say the same thing, Ariel, but he says I'm being too harsh on the special effects of the time.
I do think you are. Because you do have to remember this is 22 years ago. But if you look at Balance of Terror, Doomsday Machine, Star Trek II, Star Trek VI. Yes, those are all action. However, they're very intelligent action. They have an interesting story and a high concept sci-fi idea behind every one of them.
Plus, they have good relationships between good characters.
Right.
You know what I mean? To me, that's always been a hallmark of good Star Trek, is the relationship between characters.
Right. And that's the reason that I say of the next gen cast movies, Generations is the best, because it's the only one that at least attempts to be about the characters. I mean, it doesn't do it very well, but at least it tries.
While killing Kirk twice, but I digress.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't say that. I mean, yeah, that's a flaw in the movie, but it doesn't make it the worst movie ever. It just means it's a flaw in the movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you an intelligent like Star Trek II, I will tell you, if you really want to do a deep dive on Star Trek II, you're going to need to read Paradise Lost. You're going to need to read Moby Dick. You're going to need to read Dante's Inferno. Yeah, exactly, Stan. You're gonna need to watch Space Seed. And that's just to do a deep dive on arguably one of the most action-oriented movies in the original series franchise. Star Trek VI is more of a historical commentary as far as the Berlin Wall coming down. But it was good social commentary. Like, what do we do once we tear down the wall? What do we do when we have no enemy to fight? And unfortunately, it looks like we get all paranoid, and now we have an election between two octogenarians. But I digress. Those are intelligent films. Balance of Terror, my favorite episode of all of Trek, is not just shoot 'em up, bang bang. While there is some shoot 'em up, bang bang in it, but it shows both sides of a conflict, and that you realize the Romulans aren't evil. They just have a different ideology than the Federation,
Ariel, I'm seeing all of your comments. I just don't wish to acknowledge because you're insulting. You're accusing us of living in our basements. Come on now.
Yeah, I'll have you know, Ariel, I'm in the attic.
And just
I
because I am
own
in a
my attic.
basement, and just because I am in an old lady's basement, neither here nor there.
Well, yeah, you are in a basement,
Yeah.
so.
But I do look like, because this movie was so bad. It was just so bad.
Thomas, your favorite episode is Bouts of Terror. Didn't know that. Yeah, because I've only mentioned it 8,000 times. I know. But but in this, it's like we have mustache twirling villains. The Remans are just there to. I mean, it goes back to the bad guys are ugly. You know.
Well, not just that, but like I was
they're
saying in our
literally
watch along,
monsters.
if you take the whole Troy mental rape subplot out, it also helps Shinzon be a more like all that does is make Shinzon look and feel like a pathetic loser creep. You know what I mean? It takes away from his villainy in a way, you know.
And thank you, by the way. Mercer put the link to the Star Trek Cinematic Problem video.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I've got it queued up. I'll check that out after the show.
It's worth a watch. It's a very, very well done video.
It's only 15 minutes.
Yeah,
so
my compliments to Rowan. Because it's one of it, and he makes good videos, but this is one of his best. So I can't recommend it enough. And I agree with it 100%.
And no, Stanley, I don't, but I do have a microwave right here and a Keurig over there and a water cooler that gives me instant hot water for like my tea. But no, I don't have a hot plate down here.
Yeah. And he has a T-shirt that says "I Grok Spock." And he has pictures of Sarah Michelle Gellar on the wall, and he has he's living in his mom's basement. He really is. So yeah. So there is one saving grace to this movie.
Oh, do tell.
It ends the TNG era of films.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Because
yes, it does.
I'm sorry. I think and I said this during our watch along, but it does bear repeating. I like TNG a lot. I think it's a really good show, especially the last few seasons. But the TNG movies sucked. Why are you? What are you looking for?
The end.
We're at the end.
There we go.
Yeah. Don't.
Okay.
Trust me. Don't do that.
Okay.
Okay. You could, yeah. Anyway, it's that's I'll explain later. But anyway, so yeah. Any final thoughts?
I'm going to give it a 30. I'm going to let it tie because I'm letting my emotions get in the way of my better judgment because of the whole Kirk thing. But this is the worst Star Trek movie.
It's really bad. Yeah,
it's bad.
Well, it's as a Star Trek movie, it's really bad. Again, I know I've said it before. I will repeat it. As a movie, it's probably the best of the TNG movies as a standalone film. The problem is it's not a standalone film. It is part of a franchise.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it is the weakest, as far as maintaining characters. So you got good cinema quality, weakest characters. So it's kind of, I don't know where to put it. I mean, other than the fact that I'm just glad they're done.
Yeah. You really do need to make a video on the Nexus theory because it does.
It's the only thing that helps it.
Yeah. And I haven't really heard anybody. I don't, I actually did look around. That's not a thing out there yet. So we've put it in the ether. You need to do it.
I know.
Before somebody else does.
I'll get around to it. So with that, that was just horrible.
We still got, I know, like, what does the chat want to talk about? Throw us a super chat, anything. Nothing's off limits. We got like 6 minutes.
What do you mean nothing's off limits? There are some things that are off limits.
Let's get back into politics. That was fun. You see the trailers or the reviews for this movie, Civil War? Oh my God, that sounds terrifying.
I have not seen the reviews for it. I've seen a trailer for it, and when it comes out on streaming, I'm going to watch it for one thing and one thing only. I mean, I'm sure the action is doable and all that, but there's just one thing I want to know. How the hell do they come up with a war scenario where California and Texas are on the same side seceding from the nation? That makes no effing sense to me, because those two states are like such polar opposites. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That just reminded me, because you said streaming. Godzilla -1 hits streaming Amazon Prime on May 3rd. Only caveat is only available in Japan. So if you got a VPN and Amazon Prime, just change your IP address to a Japanese one, and you can watch it streaming.
There you go. Yeah, and honestly, it's worth it.
May 3rd. That's.
I assume you're going to do that?
Friday, May 3rd. I'm gonna. They probably won't have an English subtitle version since it's only for Japanese.
No,
viewers.
not necessarily, because
I'll try, because I have Amazon Prime and I do have a VPN. Right. So
there are a lot of American servicemen in Japan.
Yeah.
In fact, I made a new Japanese friend. Whose name is, I'm going to butcher it. It's like Manami. Met her while I was doing the Uber driving. She was actually in America doing training with her corporation, and it was her last night out on the town in Nashville, and I was taking her back to her hotel. But it's funny because we were talking. I know more about Godzilla than she does. And we were talking a little bit about Godzilla on the trip, but then she sent me these pictures of, there's a hotel in Japan that has a life-size Godzilla head sticking out of the top of the building, so that when you see it from a distance, it looks like Godzilla is on the march in the city.
That's funny.
And like every hour, like how Big Ben chimes every hour, this thing makes the Godzilla roar.
Oh, that's funny.
And so, yeah, it's freaking awesome.
Ariel, just because Austin's weird and is totally blue in the middle of a gigantic red state, don't mean Texas is purple. I don't believe that for a second. I mean, it's got one anomaly, and that's Austin.
And besides that, I couldn't see California. I mean, okay. So if you were saying, okay, say Texas goes ultra liberal, and so that's why they team up with California, because that's kind of what you're implying, is because California is hard blue. So Texas, in order to go to a secession level event, Texas would have to be at least as hard blue as California, and the rest of the country would have to be red, right? Like Trump red. And the problem is that I couldn't see that happening without Oregon, Washington, and New York joining.
Yeah, I don't know.
But. Yeah. And not just Northern California, ABJ. The funny thing about California is that everywhere in California except for Los Angeles and San Francisco is red. The problem is that Los Angeles and San Francisco is the majority of the population. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, and the Jefferson state of Jefferson, you probably don't even know about this, but the state of Jefferson movement was to take the northern California that's north of the San Francisco Bay Area and southern Oregon that's south of Salem, Oregon, and create a new state called Jefferson, because that whole area is very, very red and they all feel like they're not being represented. But the problem is it's also very, very rural, so they don't have any kind of political clout. And even if they did become a state, they wouldn't have a capital, a city worthy of being the capital, because there are no big towns. So. And Stan says apparently the movie doesn't even bother explaining it. Well, that sucks.
Yeah. I don't know. I saw a Red Band trailer for it the other day, and it doesn't look like a movie I'd want to watch. It'd probably give me anxiety.
Why? Because of the
it might be prolific. You know what I mean? or
What?
prophetic. You know what I mean?
Oh, because
Yeah.
yeah. Well, except that okay. So worst case scenario, I mean, I could see several states in the South seceding if Biden were elected. I could not see a secession happen if Trump were elected.
You kidding me, California? We got the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah,
we don't
but
need this shit.
But
We're outta here.
I don't think they would secede.
Go ahead. Hey, Lex Luthor, remember that plan you had where you were going to blow up the fault line and just let California drift into the ocean?
Yeah.
We're going to let you do that now. Go ahead. That's fine.
So you think that California would secede?
No, I don't think anybody will actually secede in this